Hi, I'm Zak.
And I'm Jules, and we are back with Life After Prison, Getting Out, your guide to adapting to life on the outside.
Yes, and in every episode, we tackle the big issues and challenges that we all face when rebuilding our lives again after prison. In every episode, we go through an issue or challenge that you face, such as health, rebuilding our confidence, and disclosing our offence. But in today's episode, it's all about your housing options and accommodation.
Yes. I mean, in prison, it's a guarantee that you do have a roof over your head. But being released, it's not always a certainty for people, you know? People don't always have accommodation and somewhere to go to.
Yeah, facts. For me, I've been released from prison without anywhere to go. So I had no fixed abode, meaning no legal place where I resided.
What other people also call it NFA?
Yeah, people call it NFA, yes. And probation were fine. I told probation I was sofa surfing. They're like, cool, if you got people to stay with, we're more than happy for you to stay. You're not on the street homeless, you know? But that was quite difficult, just come out of prison.
I mean, even saying that you're homeless, I mean, how did that feel? That's quite a lot.
I'm just keeping it real, so honest, innit?
Yeah.
What can I do if I ain't got a place to live? You're homeless, innit? So it was just about on the journey of starting life again, and having that big issue over my head was difficult.
But it's not easy.
It's not easy. It's not easy anyway, but having that on top made it a bit more stressful. So I really hope that in this episode we can help someone or make their journey a little less difficult.
Yes, me too. To be fair, I knew a lot of women inside myself who struggled with accommodation as well, especially women with children on the out and trying to create that home and trying to get back out to build that family again. So, you know, there was a lot of women that found that really hard.
In every episode, we ask for someone to send in a voice clip about a particular issue or challenge that they face. We really want to hear from you. We want to hear as many voices as possible and include everybody. And today we have a voice note.
We do, from Marcel, who has been finding it difficult to find housing since he's been released. So let's hear the clip.
Hi, it's Marcel, and I've been out 14 months now. When I first come out, I was put in a hostel, and then I applied for social housing. I struggled a lot, like getting through with the social housing because they wanted me to like confirm the jails, my offences, like if I'm any risk, if I've got any like MAPA or anything like this involved, because they all like, they all contribute to where you can be placed after jail. But one of the main things that I always found is when I was in the hostel, I made sure that I always went forward and I asked them anything I needed, like housing wise, like, oh, what's best to do this? Where should I apply? How to get letters written? Who do I go to? So my question this was be like, if I get out of jail, like other than a hostel, is there any like charities or things available in the Northwest for people to access?
Right. Thank you, Marcel, for that voice clip. Really good information in there and quite detailed. We have a guest today who can really help Marcel with this, or others who are going through something similar. We have Heidi Trott, contract manager from Shelter. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Great.
Thank you for coming.
Can you tell us a bit? Yeah. Can you tell us a bit more about what you do and what is on offer for Marcel to help him?
Yeah, so it's probably worth touching upon national services that are available to people. So I know Marcel's from the Northwest, so I can tell you a little bit about what to do if you're in prison, what to do if you're in the community, or just generally what's available for you out there. So I work for Shelter. I work on the Justice Services contract, and I specialise in like Yorkshire and Humber area and a bit of Lincolnshire as well. So fundamentally, the first thing Marcel or anybody can do if they're leaving prison is speaking to their probation officer. That's number one, because depending on where you are in the country, there's a different service provider. So it might not be Shelter, it might be Ingeus, it might be CTEC, it might be somebody else. That information you really don't need to worry about. just fundamentally go to your probation officer. They will then signpost you into the appropriate service in your area. What you'll find is you might get a phone call or an appointment made in prison or in the community to speak to like an accommodation advisor. They'll then go through, as Marcel said, all of your information. Some of it's quite personal. It's about your offence. It's about any risks that you might pose, any restrictions that you might have, and also your goals and aspirations. Fundamentally, is there anywhere you can live already? Can you live with friends or family? If not, what is suitable for you? And that's determined by you. So as you say, it could be getting local authority accommodation. It could be supported housing, private rent, different set of services depending on what you need, really.
Great.
Amazing. Okay, so the other names that you mentioned, are they to do with shelter as well, or are they different?
So it's all the part of the services we provide on this probation contract.
Okay,
really.
okay.
So for shelter, we're a national service. So if you are coming out of prison, you might get a discharge pack. And on your discharge pack, it might outline a couple of charities, as Marcel said, where you can signpost to. It could include mental health charities, food banks, employment, accommodation. So shelter, if you've got like an issue, you can call us on the helpline. That's not a problem. But if you're a prison leaver and you've got accommodation needs, fundamentally go to your probation officer and they will signpost to who's in your area.
Okay, so first of all, probation, and then the help comes from there.
Yeah, definitely.
And it varies, like you said, depending on the region and the area that you're based in, right?
Yeah, so it's just a different charity or a different organisation. Or actually, if you're in the community and you're not subject to probation because you might have finished your licence, you can do things yourself as well. And if you are in that position and you are struggling, again, I could bombard you with loads of information, but fundamentally, if you're going to take anything away, go to your local authority and your council. So think, I'm on probation, go to probation. I'm in the community with nothing, go to your local council, and they can signpost you to charities in your area.
Right. Is there any further advice or information that you can give to help someone who's in Marcel's situation?
Yeah, I can do a little bit of myth busting. I don't know if this will help.
Yes.
Around two things. So one of them is around priority need status, which is basically getting council accommodation. So some people think you can just get council accommodation, and you can't, unfortunately. You've got to prove your vulnerability. You've got to prove to the council you're in a certain category and a certain threshold to get that accommodation. So I could go very long-winded about a process, but it's about whether you can meet that threshold to get council accommodation. Some people can, some people can't, and it's around mental health needs, long-term enduring illnesses, a combination of things in a package to say, I am vulnerable, basically.
Marcel also touched on MAPA. If this is another myth busting, please do. So MAPA, obviously, if you're inside, you know what that is. And even for me, I was a MAPA, and it kind of seemed like I couldn't do a lot, or, you know, it was the end of a lot of things. But is that, or is that not true?
Yeah, it sounds quite scary. So MAPA's like, oh, wow, you're MAPA? That's not, I wouldn't say that's the case. And don't be stigmatized by a label, basically. Yeah. Everybody's different. Everybody's got a unique set of circumstances. And it's about portraying that to an organisation and minimising any risk level. So, for example, if you've got a certain conviction, you might not be allowed to live in a certain area, but you might be eligible for something else. And it's about getting your information out there to go, actually, I'll be better suited for this, or this. So yeah, and another one as well is local connection. Again, people, and this is a really difficult one, just because you've got children, young children, in a certain area, doesn't mean you've got a local connection to that area. Legally, you can present to any council in the country and go, help me. And they've got a sort of responsibility to go, okay, we'll see you. But I wouldn't say that's very sensible. I would say where you've lived all of your life, if appropriate, go to that local authority. And there is some things to say you can or can't go into a certain area. And it's around if you've got family ties there, if you've lived in it out of a certain period, out of a certain time frame. So, for example, 6 months out of 12 months. Just because, you've been in prison doesn't mean you've got a local connection. So if you're in an open prison and you've been in that prison 4 years, that automatically doesn't count as a local connection.
Okay.
I know. So there's a lot of different things.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people think, you know, that it is a guarantee, and,
yeah,
you know, go at it this way because of that. So that's interesting to know.
Yeah, so obviously I can give you all the information, but it could overwhelm a listener. Automatically go to where you're going to get support.
We love overwhelming. The more information, the better.
Exactly.
No, but essentially, everyone's based individually. There's no one way or...
There's no blanket rule.
Yeah, and I think that's important for people to know that, everyone is individual with a different story and a different reasoning behind, their offences and what they need.
And I'm glad you touched on myth busting, because really want to manage expectations here, because, some people will be like, yeah, do this, do that, you'll get housing, or, oh, don't go that way, it didn't help me. So, like, in terms of managing expectations, what would you say?
So, nothing's guaranteed. Just because you're a prison leaver doesn't mean you're going to get housing on the first day of release. And that's an unfortunate thing to say. But there is things that you can and can't do. There's agencies that can and can't support. And it's just understanding in the current climate where you can go. So to manage expectations, if you're on probation, go to probation. Go to your local authority in an area that you've lived a long time to get some support. And there's things you can do yourself as well to help. So it could be if you've got access to a phone or access to the internet, you can Google things in your area as well. There's charities that just pop up out of nowhere. There's charities that have been going 40, 50 years. Again, it's different to everyone's area. So go and find someone that will support you is the best thing as well.
Great, thank you. Is there anything else that Marcel could do, or anybody in Marcel's position or our position that, would help them find accommodation?
Yeah, being honest about what you need as well. So being honest, being transparent with what you need and all of your information. So like Marcel said, he's done a lot. He's had to disclose a lot of information to virtually strangers, which is really terrifying.
He's also been pretty proactive.
Yeah.
In doing quite a lot of stuff, which is great.
So being proactive is really good. Being honest is really good, and getting your information out. You're going to be asked a lot of personal questions. Make notes. Where have you lived? If you lived at your nan's for 2 weeks, you lived at your aunt's for 3 weeks, what areas are there? Do you know the postcodes? What risk levels? But also be honest about what support you might need. So you might be a younger person who's never lived on their own before. Not only are you coming out of prison and you've never lived on your own before, you might go, actually, I don't know how to maintain a tenancy. I don't know how to, sort my energy bills out. I don't know how to do any of this. So I think I need extra support in these areas. So to empower yourselves, be honest about what your needs are, and then share that with your advisor or probation, and then they'll point you in the right direction.
Would you have tracked when you were safer surfing? Could you track it back now?
Yes, only because they were like friends and family.
So all of this though will really help somebody trying to find accommodation. It will help them more, right?
Genuinely, when you need referring into multiple agencies, so it might be the council or it might be housing providers or a landlord, you'll get asked the same questions. So you'll get asked your personal questions, you'll get asked your address history, you'll get asked like risk related, support related, and then general things as well, like mental health services. Are you on any medication? Do you have any employment? Any substance misuse issues? And if you're familiar with this in the prison, all of your criminogenic needs, it will cover all of them aspects. So that's genuinely what a referral goes through. So think about yourself. Think about what currently you're going through. Do you have any employment to go to? Do you have any medication you're on? Do you have any mental health services supporting you? Any drug agencies supporting you? And just start making some notes. These are generally the questions you'll get asked repeatedly on referral forms that we complete for you. But if you can just get that out very easily, it speeds up the process as well.
And to be prepared for those intense, in-depth conversations, because you will be asked.
Yeah.
On that note, we really want you to get in touch with us if you have any experience with finding accommodation, or you have some advice to share with us. Please hit us on our socials at After Prison Pod, or drop us an email to podcast@prison.radio.
Also, if you've actually followed up on any of the advice that you've heard today, because that'd be really useful and really helpful. Yeah,
let us know how the information and advice has helped you. Heidi, anything else you could
share with us? You actually touched on probation quite a lot, and that's like the first place you go to. What if somebody doesn't get on with their probation officer?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because again, a lot of people experience this or have a mistrust of services if they've had a bad experience in the past. That could be police, probation, any services out there. We've even experienced with accommodation. If we've not managed to get somebody accommodation before, there's then a little mistrust there. So I'll just give you a real example of something that could help put it into perspective. So if you're living in Lincolnshire and your probation's there and all of your support services are there, and you find somewhere in Yorkshire or a different county or a few towns over, and you found something yourself and you've got everything set up, it doesn't necessarily mean you're allowed to live there, because you've got to switch your probation office over, your probation officers, all of your services, they've got to accept that transition as well. It's quite a big labour intensive process. And I'm not saying it's not going to be done, but it is difficult to try and convince all of the services to take you at a specific date as well. So what I would say is support yourselves in what you know you want ultimately. But if you are subject to licence conditions, subject to any RAR days, for example, or anything like that, you're going to have to follow this process. Or you can ask to switch probation officer potentially. Just try as much as you can to engage with it to help yourselves.
Yeah. And sometimes switching probation officers is just, it works. It works in your favour. So yeah, help yourself out in that way if that is a problem.
There's a multiple of organizations out there that can help you, right? So, you know, yes, the onus is on yourself, but at the same time, there's organizations there that can help, right? So it's about reaching out.
And acknowledge what your weaknesses are as well. So, for example, if it's time management or you're not going to get to an appointment because you haven't got a mobile phone to keep track of that, acknowledge what your weaknesses are and get that support as well. But definitely there is support, advice and guidance workers out there, and everybody wants what's in your best interest.
Thanks for sharing those points, Heidi. Could you just summarise the points from our conversation so far, please?
Yeah, definitely. So if you're in custody or in the community subject to licence conditions, then if you need any support with your accommodation, fundamentally go to your probation officer in the first instance, who will refer you into whatever organisation is in your area. If you're not and you're in the community subject to no licence agreement, go to your local authority, because if they cannot support you, they will point you in the right direction. If you've got access to a mobile phone or the internet, you can simply Google some charities in your area, and also engage with the process. Some of it's very personal. It takes a while sometimes. Everybody's got the best interests at heart for you. So yeah, just engage with the process as well.
Yes, there are loads of organisations out there that want to help people with their accommodation issues. So we've heard from Shelter today. Another one is Crisis. So they're a homeless charity who work across a lot of different regions. So for example, Birmingham, London, Newcastle, Edinburgh. So yeah, get involved.
Thanks for that, Jules. There's also St. Mungo's, who support people with housing issues in the southeast of England and also in the southwest.
So Housing for Women, this is a charity based in London. They help support women with substance misuse issues or who have experienced domestic violence. And they help women in those cases with accommodation.
Wow, that's really great, man. Good stuff there. There's also NACRO, who can offer you advice and guidance about accommodation, specifically for people who are leaving prison. Likewise, Framework can also do the same.
So you can find loads more information, including links to all these organisations that we mentioned, also some others in our show notes for this episode. So make sure you check those out.
Yes. And if there's something that has been affecting you or a challenge that you've been facing since you've came out of prison, please get in touch with us. We want to build a community here and we want you to share as much of your experiences with us as possible. So you can get in touch with us by hitting us up at our socials at After Prison Pod, or you can drop us an email to podcasts@prison.radio. Or if you want to write into us, you can write to us at Life After Prison, National Prison Radio, HMP Brixton, London, SW2 5XF.
Yes, please get in touch. And, you know, if you learned something today that you haven't before, again, we really want to hear it. We also have another podcast called The Sit Down. So we're going to have wicked guests on here from all walks of life, having, discussions and conversations about their journeys, their stories, struggles, wins. They're going to be wicked. So get involved and search for that.
Yeah, that's more for, sharing experiences, hearing someone else that's gone through something you've gone through and taking little bits of gems from the conversation. Plus, we got some special guests, right? So don't miss that one, yeah. So, want to thank you for listening. Want to thank Marcel for sending in that voice clip.
Yes, big thank you.
Want to thank our guest in the studio, Heidi.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's been great. We've learned a lot. We're hoping they'd have too. So
yeah.
So if you did like today's podcast, please like and subscribe. It really helps other people find the podcast as well, and we want to reach as many people as possible.
So we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time.